This thing you are viewing this video on is called YouTube, and is the most used video watching provider in the world. Its main purpose? Gaming videos, at least nowadays. Gaming has grown into a huge cultural phenomenon within the last 40 years. And it really has an interesting story. To be a true gamer, you gotta understand its history. Get ready for a history lesson, a lesson that won't make you fall asleep. And get ready for the history of video games. It's unclear what the true first video game console ever was. The entire first generation of video game consoles were all Pong consoles, such as the Coleco Telestar and the Nintendo Color Television. Though for the sake of long, confusing debates, most people look to the Magnavox Odyssey, which is the original Pong console. This machine was developed in 1966 and released in 1968 by who most call the father of gaming, Ralph Baer. The Odyssey was revolutionary, even though it was a steaming piece of shit. All it was a dot. That's it. You would then put overlays on your TV, and it just pissed around with the dot. It was pretty much just a board game on your TV. It had many, air quote, timeless classics, such as roulette, football, and a simple game called shooting. Overall, the Odyssey was not that successful, although it led to the development of a much more influential console, a console that really began the video game industry. Yes, even the stupidest of monkeys must have known I am talking about the Atari. Atari made the Atari Pong. While the Magnavox had originally made Pong, the Atari Pong was a much more famous console and brought Atari up into stardom. Later on, Ralph Baer, creator of the Odyssey, will sue Atari for stealing his ideas, but no charges were given. And then, Crashdown. The overabundance of shitty Pong consoles made the industry take a huge dump, and by the end of the first video game crash, only Atari and Magnavox remained afloat, with Nintendo having to leave the market for a few years. After the crash, the second generation of gaming consoles began. Honestly, the only console worth giving two fucks about in this generation was the Atari 2600, but there were several other consoles such as the Intellivision, ColecoVision, and Commodore 64. But screw those consoles, back to the Atari 2600. This was an amazing console that, while it looks like a piece of steaming shit today, back then it was the face of the video game industry. 2600 had some great games such as Combat, Adventure, Pitfall, and Breakout. The biggest problem with the Atari was that there was no quality control. Anybody could make a game from it. Because of this, we saw shitty games like the Pac-Man port and E.T. There were even Atari porn games, like Custer's Revenge and Beat 'em and Eat 'em. This would be Atari's best console, and every console that would be a flop. After that would be a flop for Atari, such as the 5200, the Atari 5200 rather, and the Jaguar CD. The Atari 2600 would reign from 1977 to 1983, when the second video game crash happened, based on all the poor games being made. There was no quality control, as I've already said. This crash pretty much left the entire video game market in the ground dead, like a bird. In part 2 of the history of video games, how the video game industry came back from out of the ground. And who is the savior?
The winds of war have little to do with it. On a rescue mission to save our city.